Welcome everybody to IndieQuest, a celebration of the indie and obscure. And we're doing something a little different and something we kind of want to come back to and do more in the future. It's going to be called the IndieQuest OST or IQ OST. And we're going to sit down and talk about some just badass bangers from indie games that we each came with 5 songs today, and we're just going to talk about them. But I didn't introduce my co-host, which I'll do right now. What's up, Steve? How's it going?
Going pretty good. I'm excited to listen to some good indie music. Like Josh mentioned, we are going to be each bringing 5 songs. The other person doesn't know the songs that we've brought. And we're just going to talk through why we brought them, why we like the song, what they mean to us, and just give you a little bit of an introduction as we roll into the song. I'm pretty excited. There's so much good music in the indie space, and it was unbelievably difficult for me to pick it. Just 5 songs. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
But it should be a lot of fun.
This is one of those ones where we were talking, like we sat down, we were making this show, and we wanted to do some different episodes here and there. This was the one that we talked about probably the most. Like, hey, we're super excited to do this. So sitting down, just chilling, having like a listening party, pretty much. Listening to some tunes and chilling. It's going to be a good time. So do you want to roll right into it? Just get started?
Yeah. Why don't you take us away with your first pick?
Okay, so the first one I have is from a game that you might have heard of it. It's called Shovel Knight, Spectre of Torment.
Shovel Knight, was it? Must be pretty obscure.
This is actually the track's called The Imposition of Order, and it's composed by Jake Kaufman. It's pretty much the wrap-up song to the entire game. For the Shovel Knight trilogy, or I guess it's 4 games now. I don't know what that would be. Quadrilogy? Or something like that?
Quadrilogy?
Quadrilogy, yeah. I mean, for the Shovel Knight series, like, I think this is my favorite game because it actually has the original Shovel Knight has a pretty tragic storyline, and it has a good storyline, but I feel like the Spectre of Torment, it's a prequel to the first game. It has a really deep and rich storyline, and this song just was the denouement of like the entire story, like the climax of everything. It's just really epic, and I love it. I think we should check it out and listen to it right now. What do you think?
I think I'm excited for the song, and I'm also really impressed by your vocabulary there. Denouement? That is...
At one point in my life, I wanted to be an English teacher, so I know a lot of random stuff like that.
Wow, you have my respect. That was, I'm feeling the pressure now of having an intellectual discussion. All right, yeah. Why don't we listen to the song?
All right, Imposition of Order from Shovel Knight, Spectre of Torment. So, what do you think of the song, man?
Yeah, that song was really good. I've never played any of the other Shovel Knights outside of the base Shovel Knight game, and now I'm starting to feel a little bit more of the guilt that I haven't. I really liked that. I don't know, it felt like that song was telling a story a little bit. I was hearing some old Shovel Knight music that seemed like it was being repurposed, and it kind of like shifted tone a couple times. What's that about?
So pretty much this is like the ending of the game. It's near the end of the game. The final moments of the game is pretty much in silence with just sound effects. But before that, this is like the epic climactic moment. Like the callbacks to the original Shovel Knight's really cool because this is a prequel game. So this is kind of like, okay, you're done with this storyline. It's kind of a menacing, dark tone for this entire storyline, and it's going to lead into, the more happy and upbeat tone of Shovel Knight. Even though there is a, tragic element to Shovel Knight, I feel like it's a little more upbeat. I feel like this is like the Castlevania version of Shovel Knight. It's super dark and menacing the entire time.
Yeah, that's a really good description, I think. Definitely a little more menacing than base Shovel Knight, but still, retains some of that same DNA.
Yeah, and this song just like resonates with me. I think it's just like super epic and just gives you like that awesome feeling when you listen to it. I just had to include it.
Yeah, it was a really good pick.
What is your first song that you picked today?
All right, so first up, we have a song named The King. This is from the Rime soundtrack. And the composer is David Garcia Diaz. So for anyone unfamiliar, Rime is a game that came out in, I think, 2017. It's a action-adventure, exploration, puzzle type game. A lot of exploring environments and solving puzzles, things like that. And I brought this particular song because, one, I think this is just a soundtrack that's really underappreciated and not a lot of people talk about. They do a lot of good mix of string instruments and piano. It's very layered, and the soundtrack has a lot of somber, slower stuff, and then some like more upbeat, not quite catchy, but bordering on catchy pieces. And yeah, I just think that this is a beautiful song. It doesn't play during like a particularly climactic moment or anything, but it still has a pretty meaty feel to it, and it's very emblematic of the whole rest of the soundtrack.
Awesome. I'm excited to listen. I actually haven't played this game, and I know people love it, but I haven't played it myself.
Oh, this is one of my all-time favorites, and I absolutely can assure you that somewhere down the line on an IndieQuest we'll be talking about this one in more depth.
Sweet.
But for now, let's listen to The King from Rime.
Dude, that was gorgeous. Just filled me with joy.
Yeah, and there's a lot more of that type of music on this soundtrack. Very heavy, very dense, some swelling strings, kind of like a film score. It's just excellent soundtrack, excellent game.
Dude, I'm actually the thing about this is it actually gets you excited about playing more of these games, just hearing the songs, because like I have only played this game one time, and it was at a PAX South. It was like pre-release on a Switch that it was about to come out that year. So that's the only time I ever actually tried this game. Just a random time frame and a random place to try out this little indie game, I guess.
It's good. It's better than maybe a launch demo might suggest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out. And I like a lot what you said about this getting you hyped up to play the games, because that same thing happens to me. I listen to soundtracks for games, and there's just something about listening to a soundtrack for a game before you've played it that like really changes the experience of playing that game. Because then when you're going through it and you hear songs that you recognize from listening while you're working or whatever, you connect with the music on like a different level. It's very very unique experience that I think I'm happy to bestow upon you. All right, so why don't you bring us into our second pick?
Sweet. My second pick is going to be from a game that I don't know if you've heard of, or I don't think you expected me to talk about, called Celeste.
Oh gosh, I did in fact expect you to talk about it, but I'm still happy to hear it.
Okay, well, the thing about Celeste is, okay, so it's a platformer. It's a splatformer. So, you do the sections and you have to get through everything, and there are these secret tapes you can find called the B-sides. And what they did for the soundtrack for the B-sides in this is pretty fascinating, because they'll take the original track and they've reached out to a bunch of artists online, a bunch of indie artists, and did remixes of all the tracks per level. So this is going to be a B-side for the Mirror Temple. So it's called Mirror Temple Remix, and it's by an artist I like online. He does a lot of remixes, and he's a really good just general music maker. I recommend looking him up. It's Too Mellow. He did like a huge like Jet Set Radio Future like soundtrack and everything, like remix. It's really awesome. So he's really good at just like taking video game music and kind of flipping it on its head and changing it up and making it something special. I played this B-side and I heard the song and I was like, this doesn't sound like any other music in Celeste at all. It has almost like a jazzy feel to it. So it just really stuck out to me. And then, of course, I already followed the artist. I was like, holy crap, he did that track? So putting two and two together was pretty awesome.
I feel like I've heard the name Too Mellow before.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, so we're going to jump into the B-side Celeste Mirror Temple Remix.
Awesome. Now that is a song I can get behind. That's pretty dang good. It's got that kind of synthesized saxophone jazz thing going on. Pretty dang cool. And not something that is too similar from what I've heard on like the rest of the Celeste soundtrack, right?
Yeah, and the thing about this is the way he remixed this track is really interesting because the actual song is like in the actual game, it's her like confronting her like dark version of herself. So it's like super menacing and dark, almost like a harrowing thing where you're getting chased and stuff. I'm sure you played the game, so you know. And it's like it's a really like kind of terrifying moment, I guess. Like the track is kind of like haunting a little bit, and then he turns it on his head and just kind of like makes it all jazzy and like chill.
I knew Too Mellow sounded familiar. Too Mellow also did the soundtrack for Read Only Memories, which is a great game with a great soundtrack, and for Later Alligator, which Later Alligator in particular really makes sense because that has sort of this like mafia Chicago vibe going on where that saxophone, that little bit that we heard in this track at the beginning and then like halfway through, like fits right in. So really cool.
He's so busy. He's working on a lot of stuff. I did hit him up to make an intro song for this podcast at one point, just to see if he would, because I like his stuff so much, but it didn't work out. But, you know, I was like, oh, man, that'd be so awesome. But, yeah, I really do think you guys should check him out. He's a great artist. So, yeah, man, what is the next pick for you on this IQ OST journey we're going on?
So my next one here is one that I think of it's probably my most well-known song that I'm bringing, and probably the one that you're most likely to have heard. And that's Pushing Onwards. This is from VVV, or V6, or V's, or however you choose to pronounce that game. How have you usually done it?
I don't know if I've ever really pronounced it out loud, and I would just like, I remember at one point I just memorized like, okay, it's 6 V's when I type it. That's the only thing I know. I never really pronounced it out loud, but I've played this game multiple times. I played it on computer and I actually played it on my phone, which was actually a huge challenge to play. It was interesting. So
I didn't know there was a mobile version. Very
cool. You
cool.
tap the screen to flip the gravity, so it makes it a little harder, but it was still fun.
Awesome. So the composer, for anyone who doesn't know, is Magnus Paulsen. On Twitter, he goes by Magnus Render. Also, I think a lot of times known more colloquially as Soul Eye. And yeah, I mean, this is sort of what I think of as kind of like the core main theme of the game. Bits of this song reoccur several times throughout the game. This is the song that's playing kind of when you first hit the overworld and you're exploring, going into the different sections of the different levels. And it's got that like that genuine, upbeat, positive chiptune music that is pretty consistent all throughout this soundtrack. So honestly, I picked this one because this song is stuck in my head a lot, like more often in my life than you might expect. So why not get it stuck in your head and everybody else's at the same time?
All right, man, let's check it out. I'm excited to hear this. I love the soundtrack for this game.
Let's do it. This is Pushing Onwards from VVV.
Dude, I just really want to replay that game after listening to that. Damn, that shit gets you hyped.
Yeah, that is a bop, as they say.
Yeah, I can just imagine myself just like I don't even do this that often, but getting on a treadmill and just listening to this, just like, yeah, let's get going, you know, just like to get your day going or whatever. Yeah.
Yep, love it. And fun fact, just because I can mention it, I always think it's charming that all the songs from the VVV soundtrack start with the letter P, and then the soundtrack's name is PPP. So,
oh yeah,
just a neat little aside. But glad you like it. Absolute banger of a song. But what do you got for us next?
Okay, this is from a modern game and like a really recent game. And I'm not sure if I've actually heard it in the game yet. I've been listening to the soundtrack just to listen to it just in the background. The game is Hades. You've been playing Hades, right?
I have been playing Hades a lot, actually. So I'm curious what song it is.
There's a song in there that just really like it kind of shreds, man. It's like the rip and tear. Like, oh my god, this is an awesome song from the soundtrack. It's called Out of Tartarus, and its composer is Darren Korb. And this song just like will melt your eyebrows off, man. It's badass. So like I was like, dude, I've been listening to this soundtrack and this one always sticks out to me. So I just want to listen to it and just soak in the vibes from this one. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is Hades, Out of Tartarus.
Man, that was just like all energy. That's good stuff. You know, it's funny. I recognize parts of the song, but I don't recognize all of it because I think when that game gets real hectic, you start to lose track of the music. Your brain shuts off all its other senses just to focus on staying alive.
This game just has awesome music, like top to bottom. So, and it all kind of has a similar like vibe and theme to it. The way it builds in, it kind of has like that mystical feel to it, and then has like that awesome, like punchy, like let's kick some ass vibes at the end. I feel like a lot of the tracks are like that, but this one just stuck out to me. Listening to the OST, just like chilling, like editing, and just being on my computer, I'll just blast some Spotify or YouTube or whatever. So, good times. All right, man. So, what's your next pick?
All right. So, being a little bit of a stereotype of myself in bringing a song from this game, for number 3, we have End Times from Outer Wilds.
Ooh.
This is composed by Andrew, I think it's pronounced Prahlow, Prahlow. And I think this is one of the main game soundtracks he's worked on. I don't know if there's much else that he's done. A little bit of introduction to this track is pretty important. Anyone that has not played Outer Wilds, the whole game operates on a 22-minute cycle. You play through, and after 22 minutes, the game resets back to the start, and you go again. Same as Majora's Mask's 3-day thing, but 22 real-time minutes. And that's because in the game's world, the sun is going supernova at 22 minutes, and the universe is basically being wiped out. That's not spoilers because you learn it in the first 22 minutes of the game. It's the core loop. But this song, End Times, is the song that starts playing at 20 minutes to let you know that you only have 2 minutes left and that the world is about to be destroyed. And it's got this just like perfect blend of like melancholy, sad, just like depressing, you knowing that your time is up, but also there's like just a little note of hopefulness in there too. It's simple musically, but it's so effective in how they use it in the game, and it's just I get such a heavy heart every time I listen to this song.
Dude, this is on my pile of shame. I think this is probably the top of my pile of shame. Seems like a game, like it's one I've tried out multiple times and never actually sunk time into and actually got into it deeply. So I every time you're like, dude, Outer Wilds is amazing, I just kind of get this like little ping of like, man, I need to play that. So it's definitely up there for me for something I need to go back to.
If and when you do play it, you'll definitely hear this song plenty of times.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to give it another shot. All right, so this is End Times from Outer Wilds.
Dude, That is so atmospheric. It's kind of haunting at the same time. I guess it's the end of everything, so you kind of feel a little. It has like a chilling feel to it, but it's also kind of chill. It's kind of nice too at the same time. Even though it's like the end of everything, having that context really adds to the song, I think.
For sure. And it's while you're playing the game, it's funny because sometimes you're in the middle of doing something and you hear that song kick in and you start to kind of like panic and try to finish the task you were doing before your time runs out. But sometimes that you don't have enough time to go to the next location or like look around anymore. You won't have enough time. And so it's pretty common, at least it was for me, to just sort of like calmly accept the inevitability of the end of the world and just sort of like take a seat on a rock or on a cliffside and stare off into space and watch the sun go supernova. And be kind of at peace with it. And what blows me away is that song captures that feeling like perfectly, even though it's so straightforward.
Yeah, just like that, like that little synth note as the sun explodes. It just adds to it. It's awesome, man. I really need to play that game.
You do, but I won't beat you up too much about it. Tell you what, why don't you bring us into the next track you brought?
Okay, this one's a really nice and just, I guess, comforting song. Have you played a game called Florence on the mobile devices?
I have, yeah. I love that game.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little visual novel type game. It has little puzzle elements that are like touchscreen based, and it's about a woman falling in and out of love. This song is the main theme for the game, and it's just called Florence, and it's by the composer Ken Penkin. Yes, sorry, I don't want to butcher his name too bad. But the soundtrack for this game is just like really kind of like wholesome sounding. It's a little somber and sad at points, but it has really nice like feel to it. Like a lot of piano, a lot of strings and things like that. It's just really nice feel.
It's just easy to listen to. It's comforting, I guess you would say. Great game too for anyone that has not played Florence. It really effective on mobile. Probably a mobile first game and one that you should play on mobile or PC. And yeah, it's just short, sweet, tells a really effective story in about an hour. It's a really good game.
So we're going to jump into Florence from Florence. Let's kick back and listen to this.
Oh, that was just beautiful, man. I haven't really listened to that soundtrack since I played the game a couple years ago. And as soon as that started up, it just brought me right back. Really, really simple, really effective song.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like the most intricate songs ever. I just feel like it's just like something nice. It just makes you feel good and warm, listening to it. And I do feel like the song kind of trails off a little too soon. Don't you agree?
It's over before it started. Yeah, I was getting into it, listening, just kind of zoning out, and all of a sudden it just sort of fades down and is done. And I'm like, no, I need a little bit more of that, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way they actually make the game is like, okay, we need a 2-minute track, and that's it, 2 minutes, for this encounter or this part of the game. So sadly, that's all we get for that one. But the rest of the soundtrack's pretty good. I think it's around 45 minutes long, and you get a lot more of that style of music. It's pretty awesome. So, man, we like that. What is your next song?
All right, next up, I have another recent game here, too. This is Canyon Run from Hot Shot Racing. And the composer for this one is something I'm going to go out and say is a friend of the show, Jason Heine. He's Heine House on social media, or he has a website, heinehouse.com. And so Hot Shots Racing is a throwback to all of those like blue sky arcade racers of the 90s. And Jason did a lot to capture different eras of racing games with the soundtrack, but I feel like this song is like the most effective at really just, feeling like something that you'd play on the Sega Saturn, or feeling like something that you'd play in an arcade. It plays during, I think the level's name is Royal Raceway. I might be wrong on that, Royal Raceway, but
I'm not sure.
Yeah, just catchy, so accurate to the time period it's trying to represent, but then also like a excellent standalone track in 2020.
Dude, Jason's an awesome guy. I feel like he's one of the most like upbeat and wholesome guys online. I just love interacting with him, and he makes great music. So I'm excited to chill out and listen to this with you.
For sure. Yeah, super positive guy. He's all about, just talking games, having fun, building community. So definitely check him out. But yeah, here is Canyon Run from Hot Shot Racing.
Wow, you know what I would call that track?
What's that?
Funky Fresh. No, man, I think the soundtrack is awesome. I've listened to most of Jason Heine's work, like all his music. I think he's just an incredible artist. Like, I think he makes some great stuff across the board. And this just has the perfect like racing game vibes. Like all the tracks in this OST, and especially this one, if you listen like carefully, you can hear just like all the layering, just all the amount of work put into the song. I feel like he just put a lot of heart into it, and it's just a great track.
Very compositionally rich. There's that like just like constant driving percussion throughout the whole song that just gets you like bopping your head and tapping your toe. Perfect for, redlining your car on the track or whatever. And then there's also those real catchy synth lines. And then there's other stuff that crops up, like at the end there's that little guitar bit that pops in. Mm-hmm. It's a cool composition.
I think I've said this like twice already, but this just makes me want to go play the game. Like I hear the song and I just think of the game in my head. So hell yeah.
Yep. Just want to hop in and improve your time. I also did want to give a shout out to Jason. He's been working on a project that by the time this episode goes live should be out and available, called Background Beats. I mean, Jason's been composing music for decades at this point, and he's taking a huge chunk of his back catalog of music and remastering it and making it completely free and available for people to use on their streams, on their YouTube videos, whatever it might be, wherever you're making content and might need some music. He's offering his music up completely risk-free, no DMCA takedowns or anything, because he's just, as long as you give him the credit, give him some attribution, he's happy to provide it. So really cool project called Background Beats. Go check out him, HeineHouse.com, or his Twitter, HeineHouse, if you want to figure out where that stuff is. But I thought that was really, really cool thing of him to do for the community.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I was like, as being who I am on 50,000 podcasts, I'm like, dude, my brain starts going, oh my God, I don't have to figure out music stuff. Hell yeah. So yeah. That's super awesome. I'm stoked for that.
For sure. Same for me, right? Like music that I can play in the intro on my stream during breaks and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's perfect. All right. So why don't you bring us in with your, is it your last track already?
Last track already, man. So I was kind of waffling back and forth between a few for the last one, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go with a song from Hat in Time, which is a 3D platformer I like quite a bit. And I feel like this one, I tried to pick one that kind of stood out to me in my brain. It's called Your Contract Has Expired, and the composer for this soundtrack is Pascal Michael Stifel. And the music's just usually kind of just happy and kind of quirky and like Saturday morning cartoony-ish, I guess. That's not really a word, but it usually has more of a quirky feel, but this one has more of like a menacing bad guy feel, because this is the boss fight with Snatcher, which is like this huge like ghost creature, like Halloween vibes that you get from that entire level. It's kind of like a spooky Halloween level, and you end up fighting this giant ghost, which he is he's not as menacing as you end up thinking at first, but the boss fight's really fun, and there's just like really cool like I guess rock vibes, like rock soundtrack song. It's like rock song that plays in the background as you fight him. So I wanted to bring that and listen to that with you.
Yeah, really cool pick. This is a game I played for the first time relatively recently, so I'm looking forward to giving this track a re-listen and being brought back to my time with it.
All right, rewind back to Halloween. Put on your costumes, grab your trick-or-treat pails, I guess, and your mask, and let's listen to Your Contract Has Expired from the Hat in Time OST.
Man, that's a good pick. Real good, just like mix a high energy guitar and some other synth stuff. Solid pick.
Appreciate it, man. I think that game is not a perfect 3D platformer, but I always think of it fondly. I just had a really great time with it. I was following the development as they were making it, so I guess you get that attachment, And I just had a lot of fun just in general with Hat in Time. I don't know if I'll ever bring it to IndieQuest. I might in the future. I do have some DLCs that I actually haven't played yet, so that would be kind of fun to revisit that game. In general, I think the music's great. It suits the game quite well, and this boss fight is just a very memorable part of the game. So I figured I'd bring it.
It's a fun game. It's a fun 3D platformer, and the world needs more 3D platformers. So I'm not ever going to say no to more good 3D platforming.
All right, man. So I think this song, your final song, is going to take us out for the podcast. So what did you bring to wrap up the show today?
I knew that I'd be the final pick, and so I chose something that I felt like was fittingly epic for our final track here. This is a song named Apotheosis from the Journey OST, composed, of course, by Austin Wintory, who's done many, many things. Very, very impressive composer. And yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like the reputation of the Journey soundtrack precedes itself. Like, I don't need to sit here and explain to people why it has such an amazing soundtrack. Most people probably know. But for anyone who has not played this game, this song, which is a relatively long song, it's about a 7-minute track, comes towards the end of the game at a pretty climactic moment in the story. I'm not going to reveal what that is because I feel like it's pretty important to go into this game with fresh eyes and not really knowing what's coming. But it comes in the latter half and is kind of where the story's kind of coming to its ultimate conclusion. And the whole track just kind of like slowly builds up and just kind of gains momentum as it goes along. It matches the tone of what you're doing really well. And I feel like in some ways, this song is like a condensed representation of the entire soundtrack and the entire journey that you've taken up to that point. It's just so powerful, so effective.
Dude, I would say if someone told me one of the best games of all time, what would I like put on a list? Maybe top 3, maybe number 1, up there. It's close. It'd be close to number 1. Journey, man. Like, this game just, it's a powerful game. Experiencing it for the first time is awesome, and then experiencing it for the second time is awesome, and the third time, I feel like every time I play this game, I find a new level, a new layer to just love about this. The setting, the environmental storytelling, and the music, which is what we're focusing on here, obviously. I just think this game is just fantastic. So this is just an incredible pick, and I'm absolutely just super happy to listen to this again. I love this track.
Yep. You can never hear it enough times, right? Yep. And I know that you're a big Journey fan, and I know that that's one of the main reasons that this podcast is so dang good. It's because we both have good taste in games. But yeah, music and Journey, just an incredible soundtrack. Very effective, very fitting to the game. I feel like the soundtrack is a really important piece of what makes that game so effective. I mean, all of its pieces come together well, but the soundtrack just elevates it so high. Enjoy Apotheosis from Journey.
Man, I almost shed a tear listening to that song. I love that. I love that track. It just brings all the good feels, man.
It's impossible to hear it and not, I think, well up a little bit. You know, I learned recently the term verklempt. I think it's verklempt. Have you ever heard that word before?
In my head, the definition is just very sad. Pretty much?
Yeah. It's like the way I had it described to me was it's that feeling of kind of heaviness you get in your chest and like in the back of your eyes where you feel that you're approaching crying, but you're maybe not like going to outwardly start crying. I heard that and I would say that song makes me very verklempt.
Oh, you just mean my entire 2020 vibe is verklempt. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, well. Okay, well, yeah, that's actually a really good Apple way to put it, I think. Learning a little bit of vocabulary with the IndieQuest folks today.
No kidding. Yeah, we're both bringing some vocabulary heat.
Denouement and verklempt, like, come on.
It's a highbrow. This podcast exists in the academic sphere. All right.
Get out your corncob pipes, everybody. Okay.
Fun fact about that track, actually about Austin Wintory. I didn't want to bring it up earlier on the show because it would give away what my future pick was. But Austin Wintory actually did some co-production with Darren Korb on some of the music from Hades, which just further adds to why the Hades soundtrack is so good.
Dude, I really, really enjoyed doing this episode. How do you feel about it? Do you want to do more in the future? What do you think?
Absolutely. This is I think an awesome way to break up the typical flow of our episodes. There's so much good music out there that I want to share. And yeah, this was just an absolute blast and a bunch of new tracks added into my YouTube work playlists.
You know what? I came into this thinking, oh, what's Steve going to bring? Is he just going to bring 5 Sayonara Wild Hearts tracks or what? And you brought some good stuff, man. You brought some bangers.
Same for you. Everything you brought was either a surprise or like the type of song where I nodded on like, yep, that's a solid choice. But I will admit it took everything in my power not to bring a Sayonara Wild Hearts soundtrack song here. I thought to myself, you know what? That is too predictable. I will challenge myself not to.
That works, man. I really enjoyed this, and hopefully we can do some more in the future.
For sure.
Thanks for listening to our very first IndieQuest OST. You can find me at Frantic Society on Twitter and doing a bunch of other random podcasts. Just go over there, check it out. How about you, Steve? Where can people find you on the good old interwebs?
Can find me on Twitter and Twitch as Blinkoom. That's BLINKOOM, like Mary.
We are also a part of the fantastic Polykill Podcast Network. If you want to find other shows with like-minded individuals that will make you laugh, make you feel good about your day, go over to polykill.com and you won't be disappointed.
And if you want to stay up to date with the show, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at IndieQuestPod. Actually, a little bit of a call out to the listeners. You know, if you like this style of episode, if this is something that you'd enjoy, feel free to send us any music recommendations that you have, you know, any tracks that you really vibe on from indie games, and maybe we'll feature them on a future IQ OST.
Definitely, man. And also, we do have an email address. So if you want to send those recommendations over there, if you're more comfortable using email, that's indiequestpod@gmail.com. You can also send your thoughts, feedback, questions for the show. We love interacting with our community as much as we can. And it's also really fun to hear your name on a podcast. I know I like that. Now, Steve, why don't you sign us off, say goodbye to the good folks out there, and wrap up the show.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to this first of many OST episodes, and be good, take care, and keep listening to some awesome indie soundtracks. I'm guessing during these parts you're going to cut out our audio so that and just put the song.
Yeah.
In. Okay. So you can ignore my and my oh yeah, that's good.
I'll just purposely fade down for that.
Record scratch. Oh yeah.